Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and today we're going to be doing the mid-year freak out tag. Alright guys, before we jump into this video, let me say that I did not create this tag. It was originally created by Earl Grey Books, and I will have her original video linked down in the description. Also, if you are new to my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, you can like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content, and you can check out my Instagram. It is linked down in the description below. With that being said, let's get into this mid-year tag. The first question for this tag is the best book you've read so far in 2021. This was very difficult. I've read actually a lot of really good books, but if I had to pick one, I would say Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. So this was recently made into a Netflix show. I've also made numerous videos about this book. I will have them linked in the cards or in the description. But it pretty much follows a found family of outsiders who perform a heist. It takes place in the same world as Shadow and Bone, so there's a lot of different magical aspects. But I love this book. I love the characters so much. Kaz and Nej, they're just one of my favorite ships. I love them. So definitely, if you haven't read it yet, check it out. But if I had to pick a favorite, that's probably my favorite book so far of 2021. But it was a very hard choice. The next question is best sequel you've read so far in 2021, and I wanted to say Crooked Kingdom, but there's actually one I liked more. It's not a sequel, it's actually the third in a series, but that is The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the third book in the From Blood and Ash series, so I can't really tell you too much about it, but it pretty much follows I almost said Persephone. It follows Poppy, who is a girl who's been kept in isolation her entire life by these beings known as the Ascended, who have black eyes, almost eternal life, and can't go out during the day, and she's being kept for this ritual. And one day she meets Hawk, who is a member of her guard, and they kind of form this relationship, and he helps her to escape this isolated life. It's the best way I can go about describing it without giving away any spoilers, but it is a fantasy romance that I am obsessed with. Jennifer L. Armentrout is she's perfect. A newly discovered author this year who I really like. But yeah, definitely if you enjoy fantasy romance, I would check out From Blood and Ash if you haven't already. I think it won like best fantasy or best romance recently, which is kind of odd because it definitely walks the line of fantasy and romance. But definitely, anyway, check it out if you're interested. It's really good. Next up is new releases you haven't read yet, and there are so many, but I narrowed it down to 3 that are on my TBR that I can't wait to pick up. The first one is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is the same person that wrote The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. Daisy Jones and the Six was one of my favorite books of last year that I read because I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, and it was phenomenal. Also, if you're going to read that, I would check out the audio version because the voices in that are just so good. Whoever they got to do the different characters was amazing. But anyway, this is her newest book, Malibu Rising. I don't know very much about it. I just know that it is, I think, either a family or a group of people that end up, I think it just follows like a day in their life. Yeah, I have not really looked into this much at all, but I loved Evelyn Hugo, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and Daisy Jones and the Six so much. I will read anything that this author comes out with. And the other books I want to read are Ace of Spades. This is a new YA that I saw pitched as Gossip Girl meets Get Out. I love both of those, so I feel like I will absolutely adore this. So I'm hoping to read this very soon. And the other one is Witches Steeped in Gold. I had to think because it's not on the, it's on the side, yeah. Witches Steeped in Gold, and I am also super excited to check this one out. I know this is a Jamaican-inspired fantasy. I think this is a debut novel. I just got this. This is the Fairy Loot edition. Let's see if there we go. Camera will pick it up. It is absolutely gorgeous, and this is the dust jacket, but the hardback looks exactly the same, and it's just so pretty, and I'm very excited to check this book out as well. All of these books, I think, were released within the last month of me doing this video. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I actually have 2 for this. So the first one is Gods and Monsters by Shelby Mahurin. This is the third book in the Serpent and Dove series. Honestly, I hated Blood and Honey with a passion. I loved Serpent and Dove. I just felt that Blood and Honey was too slow. I didn't like the directions the characters went. That ending was something. But I do really want to find out what happens with these characters. I do love Lou and I love Reed, and I want to know what's going to take place in the next book. So I will be reading Gods and Monsters when it comes out, I believe in July. So I think it's actually coming out pretty soon. And the other book that I want to read in the second half of the year is Shadow. I think it's Shadow and Ember, which is the first book in a new series that's set in the same world as From Blood and Ash. So it is also by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this takes place before, or it's actually set before all the events that take place in From Blood and Ash. And I am super excited to read that. I don't think it comes out till October, so it is going to be quite a long wait. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for that one. So those are two books that I am eagerly anticipating. Biggest disappointment. And unfortunately, I don't have either of these books because one of them I gave away to my used bookstore and the other one I had on Kindle, and it was rough. So the first one is Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I just didn't like it. I didn't like either character. Apparently, I hate office romance. I tried to read Shipped, I believe, which is also kind of an office romance, and I don't do office romance. For some reason, it's just not appealing to me at all. So I wasn't a huge fan of that, and I just had my hopes set so high because so many people really enjoy that book, and they say it's a great hate to love romance, which I love. I love that trope, but that book overall just didn't work for me. And the other one is Persephone. I forget the author. I will have the cover on the screen. Oh my word, I hated this book. This is probably one of the first books that I hate. Like, nothing about this book was appealing to me at all. And it's a Hades and Persephone retelling. It's definitely a darker romance. Aspects of consent were very muddled, and it was just, it wasn't great. Also, it was like a BDSM type thing, which I think actually can be done well. I talk about, if you guys watch my Hades and Persephone retellings review, there is a book by Katie Roberts, Neon Gods, that was amazing, and that kind of had the BDSM aspect, but was done well. This book, Persephone, it was just done terribly. I didn't even like the writing. Like, there was nothing about this, and it's short. It's like, I forget how many pages, but I think less than like 200 pages. It's a very short book, but I didn't like it. So those are probably my two least favorite reads so far this year, by far. Persephone, definitely worse than The Hating Game. The Hating Game, I feel like a lot of people will like. Just personally, it wasn't my taste. Persephone, I don't know who's going to read that book and enjoy it, because it was rough. Biggest surprise, and I actually have an entire genre for this. So that is contemporary romance, apparently. I apparently really enjoy this genre, and I had no idea. So I have tried contemporary romances in the past, and sometimes I like them, sometimes I find them very predictable. I'm not a huge fan of miscommunication, and I feel like a lot of contemporary romance really uses miscommunication to drive the plot, and I just find that super frustrating. However, recently I've read a lot of really great contemporary romance where I just loved the characters, and they weren't super fluffy. Like, they had a lot of like darker and emotional aspects, which I really enjoyed. So apparently I love contemporary romance. Favorite new author. So I already talked about Katie Robert. However, that's not a debut author. That's just a new author that I recently discovered, but a debut novel that I recently read, and I love the author and will definitely be reading more from this author, is Lynette Nani, and she is the one who wrote The Prison Healer. This is the Fairy Loot edition. It is very, very pretty. But this book follows Kiva, who is a prisoner at Zalendov, which is this really harsh jail that not a lot of people survive staying in. Like, normally people die within a few years. But luckily, she's the prison healer. She's the only medic, so she's been able to last a while. So she's been there for about 10 years. She has family on the outside that are constantly writing her notes, being like, be patient, we're coming to get you. So she's just biding her time for her family to save her. And one day, the rebel queen is brought into Zalendov. And attached to the rebel queen is a note from Kiva's family that says, be patient, keep her alive, we're coming to get you. And Kiva is like, oh my goodness, how am I going to keep this rebel queen alive? especially since she's been sentenced to these elemental trials that no one has ever survived. So Kiva ends up taking the place of the rebel queen in order to keep her alive as long as possible, and the story goes from there, and it's awesome. It's such a good book. I really, really enjoyed it. This was blurbed by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know if I already said that. Sarah J. Maas is one of my favorite authors, so I was not surprised that I enjoyed this book, but definitely check it out. And like I said, I will be reading more from Lynette Nani in the future. Next up is newest fictional crush. This was kind of hard for me. I'm even more in love with Casteel from the From Blood and Ash series than I was prior to the year starting. So he will always be one of my biggest fictional crushes like ever. Then Kaz Brekker from Six of Crows. I don't know, something about him. I love him, and I just want the best for him. Yeah, I think that's it. There aren't any like new characters that I'm obsessed with as far as like fictional crush, but those two are like my top. Newest favorite character, and that was absolutely impossible. I've read so many great characters, so I'm gonna do my favorite like animal companion. I know that's not at all what the question was asking, however, I could not pick one character. So, Mephisaleu, or Mephi, in The Bone Shard's Daughter. Oh my goodness, this character is so cute and just perfect. He's like half otter, half cat, and he talks, and he has horns, and he's just the best. He might also have superpowers, which makes him even better. So, favorite animal companion definitely goes to Mephisaleu. Next up is Book That Made You Cry. I have a few for this. I think I'm gonna narrow it down to two. So the first one was surprising because it is a older YA fantasy that I heard talked about. I just read it recently and I really enjoyed it, but the ending hurt. Like I was not expecting that ending to be as emotional as it was. And that is Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I'm not gonna go into any details about what happens, but ouch. Just ouch. It hurt a lot. But this, like I said, YA fantasy, it's older. It's by Laini Taylor, who also wrote Strange the Dreamer. And this is definitely an awesome YA fantasy. I would check it out. I have a review somewhere that I will link in the cards and in the description, but definitely worth looking into. Don't let the fact that it's older scare you. I was afraid going into this that it was going to feel somewhat like Twilight or like books written of that time period. It doesn't. It feels very fresh and awesome, and I loved it. But once again, the ending really hurts. And the other book is Beach Read, and this is the book that really started me on my contemporary romance kick. Oh my goodness, I love this book so much. Favorite contemporary romance of all time. It had everything. It had a great slow burn relationship. It had enemies, two lovers, or like rivalry, nemesis, two lovers. It had these emotional points that were they just hit home, and they were so good. So definitely check out Beach Read. I was crying both like happy tears, angry tears, sad tears. I cried throughout most of this book, but definitely worth reading. Next up is Book That Made You Happy, and I have two for this. So the first one is another contemporary romance, and that is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is a contemporary romance that takes place at a Renaissance fair. The main character, Emily, has just moved in with her sister to take care of her. Her sister was in a car accident, so she's helping take care of her sister and her niece, and she just went through a really bad breakup. The main guy, Simon, is the not controller, oh my gosh, organizer, there we go, organizer of the Renaissance Fair in town, and they end up developing a lot of angst and hate, and then slowly they develop this relationship, and it's awesome. I really enjoyed it. I love the Renaissance Fair setting. It's just a good time. I was always smiling when I was reading this story just because I loved that setting. I loved everyone, the descriptions of like the costumes and the different acts. And it was just a really, really good time. There's also a sequel to this called Well Played, which I didn't think was quite as good as this one, but it was also pretty good. And then another one, I think Well Matched, is coming out pretty soon. So definitely check that out. Anyway, really enjoyed that. And then the other one that made me really happy was Arsenic and Adobo, which is really funny because it's about a murder. So I don't know what that says about me, but I smiled throughout this entire book. It is a cozy mystery about a woman who, after a breakup, moves back in with her family who own this Filipino restaurant. One day, her ex-boyfriend comes in, and he is now a food critic, and he ends up dropping down dead as soon as he eats her cooking. So it's not long before the cops begin to suspect, oh my gosh, Lila and her family of poisoning. So she has to figure out what happened, who did it, and it goes from there, and it's just a fun time. It really reminds me of like a Scooby-Doo mystery, and I really enjoyed this. I love the main character's sense of humor. She's really, really snarky and sarcastic, and I loved it. Most beautiful book you bought this year? So I have 3 for this. I already showed you my Fairy Loot books with the dust jackets on, so I just took off the dust jackets so you can see what the actual books look like, because they are stunning. This is The Prison Healer by Lynette Nani. So those are the 2 main characters. And it's so pretty. And it has those really nice, so you can see it, stenciled edges, which are also gorgeous. And then Witches Steeped in Gold. This is what it looks like without the dust jacket. And these are the stenciled edges, which are also just so pretty. And last up is Shadow and Bone. And that's what it looks like. So it's sprayed and stenciled edges. So yeah, any book you get from Fairy Loot I feel like is going to be gorgeous. I've never gotten a book from them that I didn't think was just phenomenal. They're always just really, really pretty. I will also show you guys what the dust jackets look like. Maybe I'll have that running at the bottom while I'm talking so you can see there's normally pictures inside the dust jackets, which are also gorgeous. So definitely, if you're interested, Fairy Loot, I'll leave the link down below. I believe there is a wait list. This is not sponsored by any means. I pay for this. I just absolutely love Fairy Loot, and I think more people should be able to check them out. And the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I don't really have a concrete answer for this. I already talked about the books that are coming out that I can't wait for, that I'm really anticipating, that haven't come out yet. I do want to read all of Jennifer L. Armentrout's backlist. So I'm trying to every month read at least one of her series. And so far I have 4 left. I'm about to start Lux, which I'm super excited about. But I really want to join her ARC team. And I know that you have to have read all of her books. So that is my goal, is to read all of Jennifer L. Armentrout's backlisted books. And besides that, I'm kind of a mood reader. Whatever happens, happens. I just want to read as many books as possible. Alright guys, that is it for my video. Thank you so much for watching my mid-year freakout tag. I can't believe it is already June. If you have read any of these books, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And also, if there are any books you think I should check out, please let me know. I'm always looking for recommendations. With that being said, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.